Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else. You will want to watch episode after episode to see what happens next until it all finishes with a hopefully satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time that they're introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. Now, for reference, we will only be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea about those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And before we start, I want to thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. For only a few bucks a month on Patreon, you can pick what videos I make, watch all this channel's content early, chat with other fans of the show, and even get exclusive videos every month. With that, let's jump into another epic story.
39 days, 16 people, 1 survivor.
Steven Fishbach, a 29-year-old corporate consultant, was a castaway on Survivor's 18th season, Survivor Tocantins. This is a player who would sort of define the caricature of the nerdy, super smart guy for years to come on this show, and even in modern seasons be referenced as someone people want to replicate. He helped make Survivor history in multiple ways. So how did Steven shape the game for years to come? Let's find out. Survivor Tocantins starts off with both tribes traveling in a truck, and we hear some first impressions before the players ever get out to talk to each other. For example, our main character Steven says that Sandy, the older lady that's on their tribe, should be an easy first target.
We have the strung out old lady, and it is sort of encouraging to have her because you know you're not going to be the first to go.
But funnily enough, Sandy says the same thing about Steven and thinks she can boss him around pretty easily.
The real tall boy, I think he's like a geek. I think I should be able to lead him around real easy.
Steven is on the Jalapao tribe, which is the red tribe, and the other tribe is black, and they are Timbira. Right away, Jeff says, let's play a fun game. It's called You Get to Hike 4 Hours to Camp, but before you do that, you need to vote for someone to not join you on this journey. The older lady Sandy is voted out of Jalapao, and she is mad, which is funny considering what she just said on the truck.
Sandy, you can't be happy about this.
I'm pissed. I am so pissed. Obviously, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
As it turns out, contrary to what most of the players thought, Sandy is not out of the game, but instead gets a helicopter ride to camp instead of having to hike the 4 hours. On that long trek, Steven's personality really shines when he has a wardrobe malfunction.
No,
yeah,
just
you
from
have
the
a hole
water.
in your head.
Oh, yeah, my ass is ripped.
Got some booty hanging out on the first day.
You know what, this is gonna be nice for the ladies from back home.
Now, some people on Jalapao are really having trouble reading a compass. Go figure. So JT and his thick southern accent steps in and helps them course correct. Steven says that his first impression of JT is a net negative for him because he is pessimistic that these two will ever be able to work together moving forward.
When I saw at least one sort of good old-fashioned Southern boy, I thought, I'm a little bit screwed. Don't really see us connecting on too many levels. I don't know how much she's gonna like the anxious New York Jew.
Having not even arrived at camp yet and already ruling people out in such a small cast is not a good idea for your game. But the episode is pretty quiet for Steven after that. Jalapao does go on to lose immunity at no fault of Steven, and it is decided that Sandy, despite giving a bad first impression to the tribe, is an asset in challenges, so they vote out Carolina in a 7-1 landslide.
Carolina, the tribe has spoken.
That is it for the premiere of Survivor Tocantins, and with it comes a lot of events in this episode that eat up a lot of screen time, with Steven seemingly being pushed to the background for most of it. What we did learn is that he thinks Sandy is an easy target, which was proven correct. He ripped the back of his pants and took it in stride, and is pessimistic about himself and JT ever connecting. He was on the right side of the vote, but it would be nice to know more about him here soon so we can connect with him. Hopefully that will happen moving forward. Episode 2 begins with Jalapao feeling hungry, real hungry. Joe says, let's eat some termites, which him and Spencer seem really into, and Steven pretends like it is great, but clearly he's just pretending and just being a part of the team. Later on, a revelation happens about fellow Jalapao member, Taj. As it turns out, she is married to legendary running back Eddie George. If you know football, you know this guy, let's put it that way. Pretty much everyone is blown away by this fact, except
I absolutely have no idea who Eddie George is. So while everybody around me is freaking out, I'm feeling like an absolute idiot.
the timing of how Steven said that was pretty funny to me, and it is good for his game that someone like Taj can now be seen as unworthy of winning $1 million since her and her husband are likely loaded. Anyways, Jalapao has an epic immunity challenge in the rain, playing a modified version of basketball. All they need is one more point to win, and after that epic winning shot by Steven, back at camp we learn that JT has taken the leadership role at Jalapao, and what Steven said in episode 1 has turned out to not be true at all, for the better.
JT has definitely emerged as our tribe leader, and honestly, I'm thrilled to be out here with him. He's like no one I would have ever met back at home, and I think we're getting to know each other, which I thought is sort of surprising because he's the Alabama country boy. He is Tom Sawyer, and I am the angsty city boy. He might just be seducing me with his pretty country ways, but I'm smitten.
It's nice seeing Steven being willing to change his mind on someone when he was originally pessimistic about them. We move on to episode 3 where Jalapao is out fishing utilizing the gear they won at that previous challenge, and we see Steven catch a fish.
This is maybe the first fish I've ever caught.
Oh, it is. Good.
We then immediately cut from Steven catching that tiny fish to JT catching an even bigger one, and this is very much a foreshadowing moment, so keep that in mind for later, as Jalapao goes on to win, reward, and immunity, and Steven is strangely quiet for this episode. So we move on to episode 4, where we learn that not only does JT and Steven connect, but so does Taj and Steven, and she views him as a great guy.
Now, I need to talk to Steven because I know I could trust him. He's kind of like the nerdy, shy guy who just wants to help everybody, and I know that I can depend on him in the long run.
For the past 2 episodes, Taj has been spending time at Exile Island with Brendan. Long story short, those two conjured up a potentially game-changing alliance that involves 2 Jalapao members and 2 Timbira members teaming up once the merge hits to blindside everyone. This could be huge, and Taj wants Steven in on it.
Do you want to be a part of the biggest upset on Survivor history?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
They made a pact on Exile Island to stick with each other, stay in the game as long as we can, and look out for each other once we get to the merge. So I might have just stumbled ass backwards into a huge alliance.
Will this pan out? Who knows, but it is an exciting prospect. Jalapao goes on to win reward but lose immunity, so back at camp the scrambling begins. Who will go next? What is important for us is seeing how JT and Steven being depicted as the decision makers for their tribe, and they're debating between Sandy and Sydney. At Tribal Council, JT is under fire because apparently him and Sydney have been flirting, but Steven has JT's back when he says that I know JT and Sydney have been flirting, but you should really look at Joe and Sydney because they're on a whole other level.
First of all, I should say that the big flirty relationship has not been mentioned yet, which is between Sydney and Joe. They flirt maybe a little more than JT and Sydney flirt.
In the end, Sandy is indeed voted out 5-1-1. So much for leading Steven around.
Sandy, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 5 sees a weird but humorous opening as it literally begins with Steven and Taj doing something noisy.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Right there. It's just itchy. Yes.
I've never brought such pleasure to a woman before.
Oh, my God. You're doing it, baby.
After that moment together, Taj has acquired enough clues from Exile Island to find the hidden immunity idol at their camp, which her and Steven do together. And she even lets him hold the idol for now, since she doesn't have any pockets and he does, so he can actually hide it. However, in confessional, Steven gets a bit dark with his strategic thoughts here.
I mean, I'm delighted to have the idol, but, you know, as long as it's in my possession, I'm going to try to keep it in my possession. Theoretically and ostensibly, it is mine. I'm the one wearing the idol around my neck.
Then at the reward challenge, Jalapao wins, and Brendan gets picked to go to Exile Island, so he drags with him.
And who are you choosing from Jalapao to go with you?
Steven.
What?
I love
No, not this time.
While on Exile Island, Brendan and Steven discuss the Exile Alliance, and Steven reveals to Brendan that him and Taj found the idol at their camp, and Brendan says, "Great, I found the idol at the Timbira camp." So now the Exile Alliance holds every idol in the game. Despite how quickly Taj, Brendan, and Sierra seem to have bonded, Steven is a bit more hesitant, rightly so given the information he knows. He says, sure, Brendan is smart, but I barely know the guy, and I don't want to put all of my eggs in this one alliance basket that hasn't proven anything yet.
It's hard to trust someone who, I've known him for 5 minutes. I can't place my entire faith in the game on him. So I might keep this two-tribe alliance in the back of my head as something that might be there, but I can't place my entire faith on this 4-person alliance.
Jalapao goes on to lose immunity despite a Herculean effort from JT and Joe, who tried so hard he'd hurt his knee on the ground. Spencer is viewed as someone who did not give it his all in the challenge since he was responsible for Timbira catching back up, and JT wants him out now. But despite this, Taj thinks she could be going home and is clearly scared. She has an outburst at camp that Steven makes a very smart read on.
I'm hot today, so I don't give a nobody thinks about me today. Everybody can kiss my ass.
I think she's just scared. I mean, at least she's an emotional outburst, but it's totally honest.
At Tribal Council, JT gets his way, and Spencer is voted out in a 5-1 vote.
Spencer, tribe has spoken. Time for you to go, my guys.
Episode 6 is a recap episode that has no bearing on the main story, so we move on to episode 7, where Taj wants to tell JT about the idol she found, but Steven fears her doing this might make a connection between them that no longer needs him. So he tells her, no, you shouldn't do that, but sells it as something that helps her instead.
I'm gonna tell JT I do have the idol.
JT?
Yeah.
So what does telling him about it accomplish?
Taj came and said, I want to tell JT about the idol. Until JT knows, I'm basically controlling the information flow between Taj and JT. And to the extent possible, I want to remain that bridge. Because if they connect, I might become a less essential part of the loop.
Jalapao goes on to lose reward, and Joe from their tribe gets sent to Exile Island. Steven and Taj realize, oh crap, he will have the same clues we do, and will easily know where to look for the idol. So we have to make a fake one. Taj does just that. Pretty well, in fact, as Joe is indeed tricked by what they did.
This is the hidden immunity idol. Don't skirt the issue, try lifting the veil. Here it is.
When Taj made the fake idol, she used the real one as inspiration, but when she went to rehide that real one, she didn't do a very good job, as JT accidentally stumbles upon it and says, hey Steven, look what I found, and Steven completely botches his reaction.
I just walked over and picked up the bag. And I looked at it and I said, damn, there's a immunity idol.
I know, it's right there. When JT found the idol, I was thinking, what the heck do I say? So I said, I know. And, I don't think I had the appropriate amount of shock on my face.
Thankfully, JT doesn't call Steven out for saying, I know, because JT could have asked why Steven knew and didn't tell him. Steven tells Taj to go for it and tell him, which she does, and this actually results in JT reacting pretty well and them all agreeing to be the final 3.
We're going to merge. We're going
to the merge, we're going to the end.
Yeah, we're going to the end.
Jalapao goes on to lose immunity, and back at camp, there are not many options. Either betray your alliance and vote out Taj or JT, or choose between Joe and Sydney, voting out whoever you think is weakest. The latter is decided, and at Tribal Council, Sydney is voted out 3-2.
Sydney, tribe has spoken.
Episode 8 starts and the tribe is feeling downtrodden. If a merge were to happen, they are struggling since Timbira holds a 6-4 lead over them. It is made even worse when observing Joe's knee and seeing how swollen and red it really is.
Look how hot it is.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Yeah.
It was all the way out here yesterday, and now it's just right there.
As it turns out, if you recall back in episode 5 when I said Joe injured his knee, since then it has gotten infected and pretty gross. However, Jalapao then gets tree mail that sounds a lot like yet another reward challenge, but Steven thinks it might be something else.
I think it's a merge.
I think it's a reward challenge.
Let's take bets. I'll eat your parts of the feast if it's a merge.
No, let's just win, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, we'll win.
Sure enough, Steven is correct, and the merge does indeed happen with a massive feast to go along with it.
Our biggest hope was that today was the merge feast. Less the merge than the merge feast. Jalapao is freaking hungry.
It is time to pick the tribe name, and coach of the Old Timbira tribe asks if anyone knows any Portuguese. Turns out he's asking this because he knows a word in Portuguese. He's just seeing if anyone else does. Steven says he has a name for the tribe, and pretty much no one else is on board with it.
Anybody know Portuguese? I looked up will to overcome, and that was dingus, I guess, D-I-N-G-U-S.
In Portuguese?
Yeah.
I don't know about dingus, man. I mean, that sounds like a good meaning, but dingus sounds a little bit too crazy.
I can't hear Jeff saying, come on in, dingus.
I'm in.
I think it has a nice ring to it.
They end up deciding on Forza, which is a misspelled Portuguese word that coach suggested. Back at the merge camp, Steven isn't feeling so hot, and frankly, neither is the rest of the old Jalapão tribe, and it is clear by now that by living at the old Timbira camp, and of course Timbira having the numbers, that they are in charge.
The Timbira people are definitely running the show. It's definitely intimidating to go into the merge down in numbers. They can pick us off if they want, you know? We're dependent on their good graces. So even if we make allies with them, those allies are in the dominant position.
But as it turns out, the old Timbira is not as close-knit as Jalapão suspected. In fact, there is a clear divide in the group, with Coach, Tyson, and Debbie wanting to work with JT to vote out Brendan, Sierra, and Aaron.
I want you to think about an alliance with Steven and JT. Stop.
Yeah, really, I think he underestimates basically everybody else.
We've definitely found inroads into Timbira. This is clearly a very fractured tribe because there's no strong bonds and sense of place. So there's a lot of power dynamics at play that are very easy to exploit.
All of the planning to get Brendan out is for naught though, as Joe is medevaced because of his leg injury, and Jalapão is now down 6-3.
He can't continue.
What?
They said the risk of him staying longer was too serious. That if they left him longer in the game, that this could get worse.
Episode 9 sees Steven getting sent to Exile Island all by himself. Now all season when someone has gone, they have had a partner to go with, but not anymore. On Exile, Steven says he has never made fire at camp. Not that he has never tried, but when he did try, he failed pretty epically. So his goal at Exile is to turn the tide and do it successfully.
How about that? Damn, I can build a fire. How about that?
Success for Steven. He went from ripping his pants on day 1 to reveal his underwear to now surviving on his own with no shelter and making his own fire. That's some real growth. After conquering Exile, Steven returns to camp and coach gives him some high praise.
No, I mean, for me, it was a big step.
Proud of you. I'm very proud of you.
The wizard is coming into the
We
land
missed your
of the mountain.
poetry.
Despite it being days later and everyone having more time to think, the plan has evolved, but the end result is unchanged. Vote out Brendan, but split the votes on Sierra just in case he plays the idol.
I've already got it set up so 4 votes go to Brendan, 3 votes go to Sierra. If Brendan gets wind of it, uses his idol, Sierra's gone, Brendan's gone in 3 days from that.
Earlier in this episode, while Steven was at Exile, JT got to go on the river rafting reward with Brendan. Basically, while on that reward, Brendan falls head over heels for JT and says, screw it. I want to do everything in my power to get JT to win this game. And no, I'm not exaggerating here.
I sat in that shelter and did not sleep at all, just running through all the different scenarios about how do I get JT to the finals.
Brendan's desire to win for himself greatly diminishes. JT tells Steven about this, and I think Steven speaks for the audience when he says,
He said he wants me in the finals.
Why would he want that?
He likes me a lot.
But that's crazy.
I do need to mention something else crazy that happened this episode, as at the beginning of it, Coach told everyone this story. Now, it didn't have anything to do with Steven, but since him and JT talk about it, it becomes relevant. This story the coach tells is about the time he was kayaking in the Amazon and is kidnapped by the locals who tie him to a stake and beat him. Almost no one believes it, and in Coach's story, I do a dramatic reading of the whole thing, but for this story, it is important to know that Coach was fairly credible before, but after this tale, everyone is questioning if he's even legit or not.
He's crazy. He is somewhat crazy. I think that story about him being captured on the Amazon, that's just hard to believe.
That is pretty hard to believe.
At Tribal Council, it is time to vote, and Steven says,
This is my wizard lightning shooting you back home. Kapow!
In the end, the plan works perfectly as Brendan is voted out in a 4-3-2 split vote.
Brendan, tribe has spoken.
It is episode 10, and you may be asking yourself, What the heck happened to the Exile Alliance? They just voted out Brendan. Long story short, Taj nor Brendan communicated clearly with each other, and this caused distrust along with a seemingly better offer from Coach, Tyson, and Debbie. This is not a big deal for Steven, who is really friends with Taj and not at all with Brendan and Sierra, but let's move on to the reward challenge where Steven loses and JT sends him to Exile to make sure there are no new idols since Brendan and the idol he possessed is gone. However, at Exile there are no new idols, just another clue to the idols that have already been found, and now Steven has to suffer living there with absolutely no purpose.
I'm here for nothing.
Back at camp, it is important to know that Tyson won the first 2 individual immunity challenges following the merge, and he came super close to winning the third that happened in this episode. So Steven has a wild thought. Let's just vote out Tyson, which is incredibly risky since he is part of this new alliance, but Taj, Aaron, and JT all agree.
I think we might just take out Tyson. We might not get another chance. That's true. I mean, this is like the time. It's like opportunities knocking. What the hell are we, I know. I think it's going to be Tyson. It might be our only chance.
We're doing it. That's a big move.
Steven's basic thought here is that he wants Tyson gone to avoid one player going on a crazy immunity run that gets them to the end of the game, and he says this happens every season, which is untrue, but we do know where he's getting at with saying this. And he says instead of Tyson, let's make it someone else. Keep that in mind for later, it's quite prophetic.
It happens every season someone goes on a run. Let's make it you.
Anyways, at Tribal Council, Tyson is blindsided in a 5-3 vote, totally betraying Coach and Debbie as well.
Tyson, the tribe's spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 11 starts with Coach and Debbie in a haze of confusion. They pretend like, wow, that was a brilliant move you guys made when you blindsided us. But Steven doesn't like this because of course they're being disingenuous.
It was a good move, guys. And I appreciate you not telling me.
Bold and brilliant tonight, guys.
So basically anything we had done was the greatest thing that had ever been accomplished. What a tremendous blindside. It worried me a little bit because I would rather have an honest blowout than have people smiling saccharine smiles at me and plotting something else.
This turns out to be more true than he knows, as when Coach and Debbie are alone, Debbie is raging mad about being blindsided and says they need to do something about JT, Steven, and Taj because those 3 could take over this game, meaning she wants to get them out. Steven goes on to win the reward challenge and he gets to pick 2 people to join him, so he chooses JT and Taj. Coach says that's cool that he picked them, he still trusts Steven. While on said reward, the Jalapao 3 talk and Steven says we should keep Coach around since he is a weak player in this game, but Debbie is a strong threat.
Our next move is obviously Sierra, right? Because Coach is really secure right now with us.
I think so. He's the weakest in every aspect right now, so to keep him around just makes the most sense.
Upon returning back from the reward, something big went down while they were gone because Coach talks to JT and tells him how Sierra and Debbie tried to reform the Timbir Alliance, but he said no. While Sierra talks to Steven and says Coach and Debbie tried to reform the Timbir Alliance, but she said no. Sounds pretty similar, doesn't it? Steven isn't sure who is telling the truth since both seem so adamant that they are the one telling the truth.
According to Sierra, Coach and Debbie are plotting against me and JT, and Coach is saying it's Sierra that can't be trusted right now. So I can't get a real sense of who is telling the truth, which makes me suspicious of the 3 of them.
Now, not long after that, to prove a point, Sierra picks a fight with Coach and Debbie and says, admit it, you are the one lying, not me. Which Coach and Debbie just deny. Through all of their bickering and drama, Steven susses out that the truth is with Sierra, and he is right.
I think Sierra just caught Coach in a lie.
Yeah.
It sounds like they actually approached her about, let's take out Jalapao, and she said no.
Despite Sierra telling the truth and Steven knowing it, it is decided that keeping Coach and Debbie happy is better for his endgame than siding with Sierra, so she is voted out in a 4-2 to 1 vote.
Sierra, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 12 begins, and apparently Debbie is driving JT and Steven up the wall since they both say how much she bugs them, with Steven even doing a pretty funny impression of her.
Hey there, do you think the shelter's swimming? Is it gonna rain today?
I think it's clearing up.
JT.
The reward challenge this episode is the Survivor Auction, and Steven wins a bid on a covered item, and so far all the items have been great, including the covered ones. So what does Steven win?
Chicken hearts.
Ah!
All right, I love chicken hearts. This is big.
Are they any good?
Talk about making lemonade out of lemons, and notice the spooky music that accompanied all of that. Just like when he ripped his pants in episode 1 with the making lemonade out of lemons thing. But the biggest event of this auction is when Taj wins her loved one's visit, and by choosing to go to exile with her husband, everyone else gets to have their loved ones back at camp. Steven's loved one is his brother, and
I just gave him a big hug, and it was maybe one of the most just biggest, sincerest, warmest hugs we've ever shared, if not the most.
After the loved ones depart, Debbie decides it is time to go hard on flipping on Coach. The writing is on the wall for him and her, and she wants to have no part of that. So she offers JT and Steven a final 3 deal where if they take her to the final 3, she will just let them go to final tribal, even if she accidentally wins final immunity. She says she will just hand final immunity over to JT. She'll just roll right on over for them. A lucrative offer to be sure, but Steven isn't too sure if he can trust her, so he may need to vote her out instead.
You cannot really trust anybody's promises out here. I don't know Debbie that well. I've known her for 10 days. I don't know her personal relationship with God or what her swears to God mean.
At the immunity challenge, it is a crazy one that sees Steven falling way behind. Essentially, each player has to navigate a tough obstacle course to get to the end to memorize a series of symbols to make an equation. Pretty much every player will need to look at it multiple times to get it right, except Steven. He nails this all in one shot.
Steven is right! Steven wins immunity! Oh my God, I want immunity! I can't even believe it!
I made each symbol be a number, so I had plus is 1, divided by is 4, times is 3. And I know the brain can remember a 7-digit number, because that's why phone numbers are 7 digits. So I divided it into 2 numbers. And just remember those 2 numbers.
If you ever wondered how smart Steven is, well, there you go. Back at camp, he is pretty happy with how things have gone since the merge. Sure, they lost Joe, but despite being down 6-3, Timbira has fractured and self-destructed, and the Chalapao 3 have been able to take advantage of this pretty easily. Him and JT even talk about how easy it has been, and they are blown away by how all of this is playing out.
No one wants to vote us out.
I don't know why not, neither.
I know, they all know that we're sort of running things. If everyone wants to get on our good side.
At Tribal Council, Jeff prompts Coach to speak positively about everyone, and with that comes a high honor for Steven.
Steven, he's a warrior to me because he has gone from a boy who likes to read books about adventure to a man who is living an adventure and excelling at it without any complaints.
Not only has he been called the Wizard, the Man of the Mountain, but now he is a warrior. It is time to vote, and Debbie is eliminated in a 4-1 split.
Debbie, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 13 begins, and Coach was not in on that last vote, so back at camp, Steven plays it off like, hey Coach, we saved you because Debbie was gunning for you, which is half true. She did say let's vote off Coach, but that is not why they voted her out. Coach is absolutely relieved by all this though, and buys this lie hook, line, and sinker.
You know who wrote your name down, right? What? Debbie wanted us to send you home that.
I was like, wow, JT, Aaron, and Taj, and Steven mounted a counterattack against Debbie to save me.
At this point in the game, everyone has been to Exile Island, some more than others, as Taj has gone 4 times and Steven has gone 3. Only Coach and JT have avoided it, who are still left in the game, and at this point there may only be 1 trip left to the island happening, and Coach does not want it to be him. All of a sudden, Coach has 1,000 reasons that he's telling JT and Steven as to why he can't go. All of them either seem made up or exaggerated, and Steven isn't buying any of it, while JT says, who cares, Coach is being voted off next anyways.
JT and I are eager to send Coach to exile. He has been so skittish about it. He has been selling out everyone, trying to get them to go to exile before him.
Coach, he's just really scared to go to exile. And such an adventurous, soulless coach shouldn't really be scared to go to exile. So, I'm ready to test him, and also we plan on sending Coach home in the next Tribal Council.
JT does go on to win the reward challenge, and sure enough, he sends Coach to Exile Island in what will result as the most iconic Exile Island trip in all of Survivor history. But then JT picks Steven to go on the reward with him, and they raise glasses to their game.
Cheers. To the final 2 of this game.
Final 2.
At the immunity challenge, Coach returns from his crazy, over-dramatic exile trip, and Steven is the only person shown to be empathetic towards Coach. In fact, when Coach goes on to lose this immunity challenge to JT in a long, hard-fought battle, Steven is once again the nicest to him.
Oh my God, man. Jesus, are you okay, man?
You did awesome.
Despite all of Coach's antics, there is no reason to keep him around, and since JT has immunity, this is the perfect time to eliminate him, and they do that in a 3-2 vote that sees JT voting with Coach.
Coach, the tribe has spoken.
It is finale time. JT versus Steven versus Taj versus Aaron. Who will go to the final two and convince the jury that they are worthy of the title of sole survivor? Let's find out. Right away, Steven and Taj acknowledge that if they are going to reach the final two and have a shot to win, JT has to go.
You know, if JT loses immunity, ... Wow. I don't know.
This is really the first time all game anyone's even mentioned JT as a target, but it doesn't matter much as JT wins immunity for a second time, and it seems clear that Aaron should go next. After all, Taj is part of the Jalapal 3, and to betray her would be mean, but then Steven ponders what keeping Taj would do for his game. She is a legit jury threat, and if she wins final immunity, she is likely to take JT over him to the end.
Aaron we can beat for sure in the final immunity. Then we're basically guaranteed the final two.
How do I get to the finals and how do I win them? That's been really guiding all of my decisions. I think there's also a very good chance that Taj would take JT to the final two.
At Tribal Council, in a weird turn of story considering what we have seen so far, Jeff paints Steven as someone who doesn't understand how to play Survivor and has just now shown up to the game. Completely untrue, but that is the narrative being thrust upon us.
I almost hope I'm not in the position to make that decision.
Well, but you are. You have a vote. I almost feel as though it's almost like you just showed up and this is your first day here and you don't even know how the game is played.
It is decided that Taj's threat to JT and Steven winning it all is too large and they vote her out 3-1.
Taj, the tribe has spoken.
That's a big risk, but Aaron is not the jury threat that Taj is, so it does make sense. The next day, Aaron is talking to Steven and says, I want you with me at the final two, and he says, ditto.
I already have my decision made if I win. I'm taking Steven with me. It's the choice that's going to give me the best chance of winning.
That would be the best decision for the both of them since no one has a shot against JT. But this decision is not as easy to make as what it seems like it would be on paper. Steven is slightly afraid to win immunity because he would be in a real moral conundrum.
Do I take JT to the final two, my friend, ally, the person who I'm closest with in this game, or do I take Aaron, who I'm not even particularly fond of, but who I have a very good shot of winning $1 million against?
However, Steven's prophetic words about JT going on an immunity run do come true, and JT secures his third immunity win, and frankly, the most important one all game.
Steven drops out. JT wins final immunity and a guaranteed spot in the final two.
Back at camp, all those talks with Aaron start to haunt Steven as she immediately rats him out for what he said to her, and JT is slightly offended by all of this. JT then talks to Steven and essentially asks, hey, Aaron told me this thing. Is it true? Steven lies, and once again we see he isn't very good at lying, especially when it comes to lying to JT.
I mean, she told me you would have took her.
That's not true, you know that.
I hope so.
At Tribal Council, Jeff is asking Steven and Aaron why they should go to the final two over the other person, and Steven lays out his case, which is partially an emotional one, and Jeff once again pounces on the opportunity to make him look dumb.
And I gotta admit, when you weigh $1 million versus a breakfast with your 39-day friend, you're right, that's a tough one. Aaron, you might be best off saying nothing at all. Steven might be making a better case for you than you can make for yourself.
Damn.
Jeff is going really hard on Steven here, but in the end, JT stays true to his alliance with Steven and votes out Aaron.
Aaron, the tribe has spoken.
It is now the final day of the game, and JT and Steven get to celebrate with their breakfast that Steven has been craving, and what is said next is still true as of the time of this video.
So you and I are gonna be friends for life.
It's hugely satisfying to be here with JT at the end.
Before final Tribal Council, Steven takes the opportunity to reflect back on his day one thoughts about JT, as he recalls not thinking the two would ever get along, but that has been completely flipped on its head.
My first impression of JT was, we're not going to get along, but I was totally wrong about JT. He might be the good old boy from the South, but he has ended up being the person whose mind has worked most like my own. And that to me is really surprising, that in spite of our completely different backgrounds, our minds seem to work totally in sync.
It is time. Final tribal council. Will the jury choose the easy win in JT, who has charmed them all with his social game, or will Steven be given credit as the brains of the Jalapao 3 Alliance that ended up running the game? Let's find out. Steven starts Final Tribal with an opening speech of questionable choices. Mainly, he takes the journeyman approach and says, wow, he really had to grow in this game to do all that he did, whereas JT was already prepared before even playing. But Steven doesn't really address why he deserves the million more than JT.
I mean, it's obviously hard to talk, against JT now and to sort of compare myself to him since we have been through so much together, but I kind of want to focus maybe on not what we brought into the game, but what we've taken out of the game. And, I came into the game extremely uncomfortable in my own skin. I'd never been camping before. So I think my road has been a lot harder.
Brendan is the first juror, and he asked Steven pretty much what I just said. Why is Steven's growth arc more valuable than JT just being flat out good? Should he be given some sort of handicap like they do in bowling? Steven says he played in the shadows as an under the radar threat, but he is completely misreading what Brendan wants. And let's be honest, we literally saw Brendan earlier in the season say that he just wants to give the million to JT. And JT also dunks on Steven in the process.
JT is an amazing outdoorsman. I came in with none of these skills. I still persevered and will be leaving the game with many of them.
Growth is irrelevant, really. I mean, that's something you can carry home with you. That's something that's good for you personally, but obviously, if you go to a football game and just because it was harder for you to catch the ball and you catch it doesn't make it better than the person that already knew how to catch it.
It's a bad situation here for Steven. Erin is the second juror, and she says, Steven, you were part of 3 alliances, and yet they all ended up on the jury. Should I just vote for JT? Which is wholly an unfair question, as JT betrayed all of the same alliances as well. Steven tries to explain that he was playing aggressively.
If you respect that aggressive style of play, I hope you vote for me, and if you don't, I understand if you don't.
That statement seemingly contradicts him being in the shadows and under the radar, like he said. But Debbie is the third juror, and she asks Steven what choice he would have made if he won final immunity, which he says,
I don't know, and I never made that decision.
That's not good. Nope, stop.
Now, this is not good enough for Debbie. She wants the truth. She wants an answer. So Steven fesses up.
I hope I would have taken JT. My fear is that I would have chosen Erin if it had come down to it.
Thank you.
JT is laying on the guilt of feeling hurt now. Coach is next, and JT lies through his teeth, saying he would have taken Coach to the final 3 if given the chance. It just makes Steven look really bad in the process.
Because I knew you'd have taken me to the final 2. I thought Steven would. But, I just found out otherwise.
Steven then attempts to show the truth that JT is blowing smoke up Coach's butt. However, this backfires hard.
I never took the weasel way out, and JT knew you were getting eliminated. I'm not gonna make that comparison. I'm sorry.
Sierra is the next juror, and she says she has no questions for Steven, but calls him a sweetheart. Ouch. But then, while asking her question to JT, she basically says exactly what she thinks of Steven's game.
And for JT, what does taking the strongest really mean to you? Because you're standing with one of the weakest players I've ever seen.
This is really a bloodbath that Steven can't do anything about to escape. Tyson is the 6th juror, and he basically toys with JT and Steven and tries to instigate a fight. He asks if JT could have gotten to the final 2 without Steven, and JT says,
could I do it without him? I feel like I could have made this adventure without him, but I don't think it would have been near as easy.
Steven, you want to reply to that?
Taj is the final juror, and she says she feels hurt by both of these guys and wonders if eliminating her at the final 4 was really all that important. We then get the one-time all-final tribal that Steven attempts to do what JT has been doing to him the whole time, and it backfires.
JT had been talking about taking you out next for a while. I had wanted to keep you around until 3, and part of that was because it would be a great statement for the Jalapao 3 to end up facing this entire Timbira jury.
Is this the same guy I brought with me?
Yes.
Oh, come on now. You've been slandering me all night, and this is the first time I ever took a shot at you.
Everything backfiring is kind of the theme of Final Tribal for Steven. JT then just lays it on thick about how hurt he feels, and the jury just eats this up, like they have eaten up everything else he has given them all season. It is time to reveal the vote live, and if you don't know where this is going, let's put it this way. Someone has the first ever perfect game in Survivor history, and it isn't Steven.
First vote, JT. Second vote, the Warrior, JT. JT, the winner of Survivor
So let's break this down. How is Stephen Fishbach as a character? Stephen was portrayed to be a caring soul who was a bit awkward and too smart for his own good, but a positive figure in pretty much every relationship we see him in, even when he clearly wanted to unleash his inner strategic dark side, which he did from time to time, and that was really the only times you saw any real signs of villainy. Unlike Coach and Tyson this season, Stephen was not a villain as a person. However, JT and Stephen go hand in hand in that not only did they make each other better strategists, but better people as well. They formed a real bond in the game that still endures to this day. One without the other may have done well, but it was because of the other person that they were able to be such compelling characters. Out of 31 character moments shown on the show, 17 were heroic and 14 were villainous, making Stephen Fishbach a hero character on Survivor Tocantins. Now, how is Stephen Fishbach as a strategist? Absolutely brilliant until the very end. Like many second place finishers we have seen in the past, Stephen played an excellent game that really fell apart at the very end, and that is why he lost. He had no issues with playing the bad guy if it means furthering his own game, and being paired with JT from the beginning was a very smart move for them both, since the two worked together like peanut butter and jelly. But while we saw everyone fall in love with JT, the same was not true for Stephen with his social game. He really needed to eliminate JT at the right time, but when it came time to do so, he actually ended up being too late, and JT went on an immunity run that ensured Stephen could never take his shot. In a lot of ways, this result and dynamic work a lot like Ian and Tom in Palau. Stephen being a much better strategic player than Ian, but still failing to do what needed to be done to ensure the win against Aaron. He also had the same similar moral conundrum of Ian too. The parallels are uncanny. In the end, had Stephen beat JT at the final immunity and taken Aaron, he assuredly pulls out the win, but even that isn't 100% certain. Out of 53 strategic moments shown on the show, 35 were smart and 18 were dumb, making Stephen Fishbach a smart strategist on Survivor Tocantins. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.